What's up, everybody? This is Brian at GameSense. Uh, Today's episode is what is going on with Xbox? You think they're gonna promote the VP, then they don't promote the VP, then they promote somebody else. The VP apparently was like horrible to work with, but at least she was a gamer. The new person isn't a gamer whatsoever and is just now beginning to game. And she was the head of Microsoft AI division. But Microsoft has said AI won't be in their consoles, but it kind of seems like with this move, they're full of it. As a PlayStation gamer, I need Microsoft to fix their shit. Microsoft is doing so many dumb things that Sony does not consider Nintendo or Microsoft a competitor anymore. Why this matters? PlayStation Plus prices keep going up. We used to have free PlayStation Plus, or at least we could up like free features even if you didn't have Plus. Like you could upload your save to the cloud. You can't do that anymore. You had to have Plus to download from the cloud, so at least you could back up your save. Um, Now you can't upload your save, download your save unless you have Plus. It's to the point PlayStation Plus, like they added the three tiers like Microsoft did. They're stupid expensive. Only I hate to say it, I think the most expensive tier might be the best bang for your buck because it's not $50 a year anymore. It's like 80. It's like 80, 120, 150, 160. Like that's why I made that video weeks back about Sony needs a 30 and a $50 tier because only about a third of PlayStation users actually have Plus because it's gotten so expensive. And they would make a killing if they had a 30 and $50 tier. Because I think a lot of people would ditch the $80 tier. I think maybe some would ditch the $120 tier. I think the people who buy the $150, $160 tier, I think they would keep that tier because they're getting all the classics and stuff like that. But because Microsoft keeps doing dumb stuff, that's allowing Sony to copy the dumb stuff that Microsoft is doing. But Microsoft killed their console basically by doing this. And that they said Xbox was going to be on everything, and that's why the VP didn't get the job because she said Xbox was going to be on everything. Uh, wasn't really prioritizing consoles, which ticked a lot of people at Microsoft off at Xbox because they want to prioritize the system. Then we got leaks that the next Xbox is gonna cost around $1,200. Uh, the only positive that I've heard is that Sony is still planning to release the next PlayStation at a $499 price point and a $599 price point. So we've heard nothing different from Sony since they announced that. So it looks like we're probably gonna get like we got the PlayStation 5. Probably gonna get a discless and a disc version. That's the good news. Everything else Sony's kind of doing is dumb and copying Microsoft. So as Microsoft keeps killing themselves, that gives Sony more wiggle room to kind of act like a piece of trash. And we need Microsoft to get back in the game and to get better so that way it forces Sony to be better. Because there's no yin to the yang, Sony can go either way that they want to do. And honestly, they're kind of going downhill. They're not staying status quo. They're not rising up. They're slowly going downhill. They're slowly becoming Microsoft or the new Microsoft. And honestly, I'm not a fan of it. So let's get into the stories. Uh, New report claims no one, not even those internally at Xbox, like everything is an Xbox strategy. Yeah, that went over like a pile of bricks. Everyone heard about the post Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond era. Sarah Bond, the announcement of Spencer's retirement and Bond's resignation. She was the former VP because nobody wanted to work with her because she was horrible to work with. She would be like, "Hey, if you have any problems with me, you're fired. If you question me, you're fired. And if you speak negatively about me, you're fired." And then she wanted to put Xbox on everything, but it didn't seem to go over well with anyone. Well, guess what? We got the former Microsoft Core AI Chief Executive Officer Asha Sharma took Bill Spencer's place, while Matt Booty stepped into the new role as Xbox Chief Content Officer. So we got basically a tyrant who resigned because she didn't want to work on it, Asha, but who was at least a gamer, and then we have a core AI chief executive officer who became Phil Spencer's replacement. That's it's not good news either way because neither of them seem like they're a good fit. As the industry and consumers wrap their heads around the sudden shakeup, a new report from The Verge looks to provide insight into why it happened the way it did. Why is Sarah Bond leaving Microsoft instead of the one to replace Phil Spencer? What does the new leadership for Xbox's future as a whole? Everything is an Xbox initiative. Well, according to The Verge, the answer to those questions begins and ends with Sarah Bond and her departure. So, looks like they're at least scrapping. They might be scrapping that. Bond is pinpointed as the one who's pushing Xbox's Play Everywhere campaign more than anyone else, and that this is an Xbox marketing strategy was a result of a few key people leaving Microsoft, leaving Bond directly in charge of the platform's marketing team. When the new campaign started to air, those loyal to the platform on the consumer side were taken aback and even offended by it. They weren't the only ones. Yeah, I don't know how she thought that was a good idea. And the sad thing is, she actually is a gamer, which is crazy because the new one that actually took Phil Spencer's place, Asha Sharma, is not a gamer. She is just now new to gaming. She actually did an interview, and that actually makes me scratch my head. Like what she thinks about when she's at the house. It's not making Xbox better or anything like that, versus actually, thinking about Xbox when she's home. Yeah, it's not looking great because the report claims that the campaign offended many Xbox employees internally and that the pivot away from the dedicated console to a broader approach focused on cloud and mobile was something that Bond championed under Spencer, and also edged that Bond's departure comes as a relief to employees remaining at Xbox who claim she was tough to work with and built a team structure that means if you don't follow the vision or question it, you are out. Now, the reason why she was still the VP is because that said, she was still praised by her colleagues for the ability to get big deals across the finish line, including crucial role as she played in securing the Activision Blizzard King deal, but that's all about the praise the report mentions for Bond. So she was good at her job, but apparently she was like horrible to work with. Asha Sharma says that she's committed to Xbox, starting with a Xbox console. They want to return to Xbox and new hardware info soon. Uh, for me, the return of Spirit of Xbox is about returning to the spirit that the team was founded on. It's the spirit of surprise, the spirit of building something nobody else was trying. I've heard Renegade, Rebellion, and Fun used. That's what I'm thinking about when I wrote that, Sharma explains. Um, she continued to explain that she understands that people have thousands of dollars and 25 years of themselves into the Xbox platform. She adds, I want to make sure everybody knows I'm committed to Xbox, starting with the console, before also saying that as the world continues to evolve, Xbox will keep meeting players where they are and invest in reducing artificial divide between different types of devices. She also says she believes Xbox starts with its fans. Xbox has said that they're not adding AI, but it's if you're adding like the chief executive officer, like the very top person for the AI division of Microsoft to run Xbox. I think it's just a matter of time before AI starts getting used in more Xbox games, and that's unfortunate. Ever since like the PlayStation 3 era, the second half of that, more developers have switched to thankfully creating games with the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5 in mind, and then it kind of gets ported to the Xbox because it ports better from PlayStation to Xbox for some reason than it did from like the Xbox to the PlayStation. I don't know why. It just did. Um, I don't know if it's because it's easier to develop for or if there's more compatibility from PlayStation going to Xbox, but when they were porting games to the PlayStation from Xbox, they were basically all just horrible. Um, I'm gonna need them to not screw this up, but if they release the specs of this console and it's literally $1,200 or $1,000, and PlayStation comes out because PlayStation has hinted that they're going to delay the PlayStation 6 from 2027 to probably 2028, 2029 to wait for the RAM and the GPUs and stuff to go back down so that way they can release the console at $500 and $600. If it's half the price, that's it's over for Microsoft. I mean, the only thing really going for Microsoft is the fact they have the Blizzard Activision deal, the fact that they own a bunch of studios now and that they can honestly live off of royalties and still be somewhat profitable, probably. That'd be my guess. Um, I don't know what else really they're thinking because I know they bought studios, stuff like that. Let's zoom in a little bit more. But yeah, it's got to get fixed. If Xbox, and here's the crazy thing, they've already said the next Xbox is the last one if it's not profitable. So here's how consoles work if you don't know. Every console loses $100, $200, but they make it up in accessories, video games, stuff like that. Oh, they make it up in other areas, but they always lose money on consoles. It sounds like they're saying we're not going to lose money on this next console. We're going to make one or $200 or $300 on the next console, and then we're going to make money on the games, and then we're going to make money on those games going to Sony, and we're going to get royalties and stuff off of that. Ugh. But a parent at Christmas or for a birthday, if they see that the specs, granted, they probably won't even know what the specs are. If one's $600, one's $1,200, and if all his buddies got the PlayStation 6, dude, they haven't even fully announced like all the specs yet for sales and stuff for like this generation's Xbox. And the sad thing is, Sony's outselling it 3 to 1. Cause Sony's at like closing in on 90 million, 100 million, something like that, and they're saying the Xbox is around 30. That's the last time I checked, and that was before the holidays. But man, 3 to 1, and the consoles are roughly the same price. What's it gonna be like when Sony's half the price? 3 to 1's gonna turn into 5 to 1, maybe 8 to 1. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 8 to 1. It wouldn't surprise me if Sony hits 50 million and Microsoft's still at like 10 to 12 million or 8 million, because you're now talking about PC price for a console. And I understand there's going to be some Xbox Steam integration, but not a lot of people believe in the VP that was there. Not a lot of people believe in the new head of Xbox. Like this article here, Xbox founder thinks new Xbox CEO will gently sunset division as Microsoft's focus is its core AI business. Xbox, like a lot of businesses that aren't the AI business, is being sunsetted. They don't say that, but that's what's happening. I expect the new CEO, Asha Sharma, her job is going to be a paralived care doctor who slides Xbox gently into the night. The natural consequences of the focus on AI is that AI abstracts every problem from the minds of the executives who believe in it. We're abstracting the problem of games as well. That's a core belief, and you can see it in what Satya said, that AI will subsume games like it will subsume anything. The job of all these people is to just gently usher all of these business units into the new world of AI. That's what you're seeing here. And he's not wrong. AI is being put in everything. It's being used for everything. And the fact that she was the head person of Microsoft AI, it's not looking good. It's just not. I don't know if the AI is going to be used to help speed up processors or what, but as a PlayStation gamer myself, I need Xbox to fix their stuff. I need them to get competitive again, so that way Sony will either add new lower price tiers to the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 6 for PlayStation Plus, to, I don't know, maybe start getting back into exclusives, because we need to look into this. Sony does not have like a lot of exclusives since really the PS3 era. The PS3 had, I think, was trying to remember the numbers that I saw recently. I think it was 18 times as many as the PlayStation 5. And I think it was like 4 times as many as the PlayStation 4 or something like that. Because the PlayStation 5 to have like an 18th of the PS3 era is insane. And it's because with Microsoft making a poor console expensive, not, I don't know a lot about it, but apparently not as easy to develop for. So that's why developers still prefer to work with Sony, especially Mark Cerny, um, because he was making it really easy for the developers to develop for the PlayStation 5. Um, Considering the PlayStation 6 was originally scheduled, they were talking about the end of 2027. Those specs are probably set in stone. Uh, they probably already have like distribution rights set aside for who's awarded contracts and stuff because you got to figure these contracts are done a lot of times 2, 3 years in advance. So their contracts probably already been awarded. They've probably already been looking for the materials and minerals and stuff they need. Something's got to get fixed, and it's got to get fixed pretty soon because they keep doing dumb things to where Sony doesn't consider Microsoft a competitor anymore. And Nintendo, they're trying to charge $100 for any game, 80 $90. Like, that's stupid. I don't understand. Then if you use third party anything, you can use a third party remote, a controller, an adapter, and they will literally brick your console. So you can't even sell it because the whole console's brick. They're like, yeah, use third party. We're not allowing that anymore. Oh, you bought all these games digitally on the PlayStation. I mean, on the previous version. You know how PlayStation has you can buy the PS4, PS5 version, so that way you can play both. Yeah, they don't have that on Nintendo. Nintendo never puts their games on sale. Nintendo always has them on full price, even 10 years later, and they will brick your console. And they're telling you up front, I was going to get a Switch 2. I was going to get a Switch 2 probably within the first year, probably this first 6 months. Um, I now want nothing to do with Nintendo. They have gone corporate. They have gone greedy. They have sold their soul to all their investors. They're like, yeah, we no longer care about our customers. We no longer care about the kids who want our games. We no longer care about the parents who have to buy the games for their kids. We don't care about the adults who buy our games. So Sony's like, hey, we're the only one that's easy to produce for, still has some exclusives, make games good, fun, unique. We still do indie stuff. So yeah, Sony's kind of winning the console war by default. Something's got to give. Microsoft, do better. Sony, do better. Come on now. But that's my rant for today. Just so disappointing. Like, Xbox, come on now. You used to be better than this. I remember when the Xbox was out with the PS2. Man, I used to play like my PS2, go to my friend's house, play the Xbox. Used to play PS3, and guess what? The Xbox still had some really good games. They still had like the King Kong game was fun. Call of Duty 2 with like the first like real HD graphics and stuff. That dude, that was fun as hell to play. I can't tell you how often I played that, and I didn't even have a 360. Like, and then everything after 360 just went downhill. And it's because they made the 360 with cheap parts that yellow ring to death like 40% of its consoles. I think at one point in time, I think it was actually like 50%. Now, after they started fixing the first batch and the second batch and the third batch and the fourth batch, then that number gradually went down until I think like 30% of consoles or something. But for a while, it was literally you had a coin flip if you had a good console. And I'm guessing they lost so much money basically giving people free consoles because they basically bought a console, had to throw it away or return it. So then Microsoft had to figure out what was wrong with them. And then it's just been downhill since. So I kind of hate to say it. I think them going cheap on the parts for the 360 really was the downfall of the whole Xbox division. And it's sad because that's the last Xbox generation that actually had games. Everything after that, they're the same as Sony. Less exclusives every generation. And it's just sad to see. Even as a PlayStation player who's owned and I think still own every PlayStation. I got a PS3, 4, and 5 in my living room. I think my PS1 and PS2 is at my dad's house. But even I recognize how good the original Xbox was. Even I recognize how good the 360 was when you had a good working console. But it's just to the point Xbox now sees its customers the same way Nintendo does, as cash cows, and then it's like they no longer care about them. And it's sad because how Sony changed its fate. Because Sony, they were going to go under during the PS3 era because they were losing like $230 per console. Because the even as a $600 console, that system cost them like $870. It was so advanced that until like I think 2022, the US military owned like 25,000 PS3s, had them all connected, and was using them basically as a cheap supercomputer because it was so advanced. Especially if you knew how to like tap into it. And considering I think most of them were bought by like the Air Force and stuff, you know those guys know how to tap into hardware. But it's just sad to see Microsoft going out like this because Sony, they had to partner with, I think it was Panasonic. Panasonic would take all the losses, and then Sony would only get the profits, but they'd get a smaller portion of the profits, but they wouldn't take any losses. They did this, games started selling, consoles started selling. They started making a slimmer model. Boom. It was the cheapest Blu ray player. They just started making smart decisions, and then they made smarter decisions with the PS4. And they made pretty great decisions with the PS5. For the price, they made it big enough and bulky enough and put a big ass fan in it to where it don't really overheat. They just don't really have the game developers anymore. Seems like they just let everybody go. So here's hoping Xbox makes a comeback because I think they need to. I need them to. I want them to. But anyway, that's enough rambling for me for today. Thank you. This is Brian at GameSense. Hope y'all have a good night. And hope y'all have a good weekend because I'm probably releasing this on a Friday. So y'all take care. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And then if y'all comment, I'll try and reply to you in the comments. Y'all have a good one.